Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Eric Larsen Day. It's Saturday, so we're taking a look at the Savage Dragon issue number 45, cover dated January 1998. So, for the past few issues, it feels like Eric Larsen's just been riffing on stuff that he enjoys. Science fiction, Jack Kirby, New Gods are kind of mixed into the past few issues, storylines. And right now, Savage Dragon is caught off Earth in another dimension, trying to come back to our Earth. So right away, we're just in the middle of a sci-fi story, right? And seems like this issue, he harkens back to some mid-60s, Marvel Comics, introducing his own versions of mythological heroes. Obviously, Jack Kirby did the same at that time for Marvel Comics, taking inspiration from Greek mythology and Norse mythology. So we've got Thor here on the left with his hammer, and on the right, we've got Hercules, and I don't want to say too much right now about their designs. We'll talk more when we see them in the comic, because there's something I noticed about Hercules in the first introduction within the book that I want to talk about when we get to it. Pretty cool cover, lots of debris, which works really well to create that layering effect on the cover, and you don't have to draw anything too precise. It's kind of fun and quick to get through, and just lots of action going on this cover. I think it looks great, lots of movement, right? And just that extra little touch of the Savage Dragon out of frame here just kind of makes me laugh, grabbing Jennifer here and trying to help her out. That's it for the cover, guys. Let's have a look inside. Clever use of the number 8, or the infinity symbol, I guess. Definitely creating a surrealist kind of picture of space, which I think is cool. Lots of interesting shapes on this one, right? Just the regular old round planets, but then we've got this spiky orb here, which is cool. We got the sun, got loads and loads of Kirby crackle. Love this stuff. Very cool. Very Kirby inspired. Lots of Kirby inspiration in this issue. Eric Larsen, creator, writer, penciler, inker. Chris Eliopoulos, letterer, iHawk are doing the colors. And that's where we're going to leave it there. First splash page. Not doing the double page splash anymore, right? He hasn't done that for a few issues, at least. And basically, they found a planet that's inhabitable, but it is not Earth, or a new version of Earth. So they're kind of miffed about that. And as they kind of come down into the atmosphere, a huge rock is flung their way by a mysterious silhouette character, who we'll find out obviously later who that is. And they crash land. Debbie, a little bit worse for the wear. Back to Earth, see what's going on there. And this is kind of just a clever sequence where they're looking at footage to train the new kind of crew in the SOS team, right? Kind of the Eric Larsen verse replacement of Youngblood. And what's happening here is they tried to thwart a bank robbery, but Killcat intervened, and unfortunately, as he intervened, killed one of the SOS characters here, right? You can recognize them by the American flag-inspired costumes that they wear. And Killcat really shouldn't be there, but because he is, causes all these issues. One of the bank robbers basically, blasts through two characters with his hands here, right through them. Unfortunately, one of them's blood is made of acid, so that starts to burn up, RoboCop style, if you know what I'm talking about from that movie. And basically faints here. Then we pull back to see that, again, they were looking at some footage. And trainer here, I think his name is Rock, I'm not 100% sure. Credits roll. Let this be a lesson, you new recruits take nothing for granted. Even when it looks like you've got everything under control, prepare for the unexpected. Moreau's, Goldbrick, and Crusher didn't, and that idiot Killcat is still out there. So basically what he's saying is all the other three bit it and died, and the idiot who ruined it all, Killcat, is actually still around. As it's been established, Killcat is somewhat on the side of the good guys, I guess, but he's quite a huge jerk and no one likes him. I'm not quite sure which god is meant to be represented by this guy here, but basically he kind of walks in and breaks open the ship that the Savage Dragon is laying in. And we know basically he says here, why have you come to God World? So we are on God World, and what we'll find out is it's a world full of gods, right? Pretty self-explanatory. Again, don't know exactly who he's meant to represent, but we'll see some familiar figures, I think. Back here, we see some gods from different religions. I think this is Shiva, right, from the Indian religion. And also Eric Larsen using this as an opportunity to throw in some titties, which he does a couple of times here in the background in this issue. More conflict. But just using one quick page and not giving us a lot here exactly as to what's going on. But I guess that will definitely be answered in future issues. Great shot of God World here, which again, I think I mentioned it prior. We're not on the same planet, but he's definitely going for that Jack Kirby New Genesis vibe. If you look at the background designs for the buildings here, that is full on Kirby. And then these kind of trees, with buildings, outcroppings, reminds me of the Wild Ones. from Jimmy Olsen that run that Jack Kirby did in the 70s, right? Some familiar elements there. So kind of a crossbreed version of, you know, the wildlings, the wild people. I forget what they're called exactly. And New Genesis. So as they're discussing here finding Earth and how they could go about doing that, they're having Debbie here in the back helped out and somewhat healed by some of the gods here on this planet. We're introduced to Thor, who basically comes out and says, you know, not that hard to get back to Earth. You know, I've been there before. And Thor, kind of an interesting design. I mean, I don't know how successful it is. I kind of, as we're introduced to Hercules, you know, I do like his design a lot more. I'm wondering if maybe he took, you know, a look at some older Jack Kirby designs, because if you know, you've got the Marvel Thor, but before that, Kirby used Thor in comics at least twice. I think once in the 40s and once in the 50s with a slightly different design. And this one's somewhat similar to that. And listen, not the only ones to do it, right? Rob Liefeld did a Thor in his Extreme Comics. You know, Walt Simonson did his own version of Thor as well. So it's just something, I guess, you know, when it comes to mythological creatures, you can't... mythological characters and creatures, rather, you can't copyright those. They've been around for thousands of years, right? So everyone's kind of allowed to do their own version of it, which will happen soon with Superman, right? In a few years. Look that up. It's a pretty interesting story. And so Thor is introduced. One last thing is, you know, he uses that kind of writing that's been used before to, I guess it evokes like ancient European or something. So there's a definite type of lettering that's used here to, you know, go with the mythology that Thor comes from. And when we see, as I said, Hercules, it'll be the same, right? So Thor obviously acting like what we assume the Vikings acted like back in the day and what we know about them. So he sees, you know, Jennifer, is that a fair mortal maiden I see before me? Come to me, wench. It's been too long since I knew a mortal. So he just grabs her and pulls her off. And of course, Dragon's not having any of it, right? Boom, gets smashed by Thor and lands at the feet of Hercules. Okay, so Hercules, again, if we're talking about, there's something more kind of extravagant about his costume design here that I like, as opposed to Thor. I don't know how Greek it is, but it's definitely maybe a little bit of the tassels and stuff. It's definitely a Jack Kirby influence, I would say, with both designs. But I prefer the Hercules design. The lettering, once again, the text, you know, definitely that type of a Greek type style lettering that we've seen before, right? And an interesting detail that I did not notice before on the cover originally when I went through this book and did when I got to this page is, you know, is that, I'm looking at the two faces here and the two faces here. Basically, these are Hellboy knee pads. Am I mistaken? That's literally like his knee pads are Hellboy faces, as are his patches up here. Oh, and also, just want to make sure I point out, very far off in the background, but yeah, here's the other shot of a nude boobie. So, of course, there's going to be conflict between Thor and Hercules. You know, Hercules doesn't want Thor going to Earth, you know, and using his raping and pillaging ways, as he says here, against the denizens of Earth. So that is why the fight is kicked off here. And, you know, you got to wonder, I definitely feel like this is some sort of homage from Larsen to, again, those 60s comics, that classic cover that you've probably seen of Hercules versus Thor. That's really what he's doing here, right? It's his version of the Jack Kirby conflict between Hercules and Thor, and we just get a lot of great bombastic images here. Eric Larsen's a master of this stuff, right? The crazy foreshortening, you know, the Kirby energy and debris. Just looks great. So we're reminded of Vanguard on a mission to save the dragon. So he's teleported to the alternate dimension only to realize that the Earth has exploded. So he's got to keep looking. Just a masterful shot of Vanguard here, you know, with the great foreshortening, the big hand coming towards you, right? That Jack Kirby style that he does so well. Just looks great. And, you know, as is, I guess, his story structure for this issue, each alternate storyline other than the main dragon storyline just gets one quick page. And we're back to what's going on with the dragon. I guess that was the structure here. So as all that action is going on between Hercules and Thor, they realize here that Debbie's being taken away by the other gods, right? And there's just this weird kind of conceit that these gods just always want to mate with mortal women, right? That does seem to be something that's pretty common within all old mythologies and even some religions, right? Got a pretty cool pin up here. I mean, it's all right. I'm not going to talk that much about it. And the conflict between Hercules and Thor continues. Again, just some great shots of destruction and debris all the way throughout. Finally, though, they learn that Jennifer's just not a mere mortal. She, you know, they say the mortal woman fights like a god, so they find out that she is superpowered, right, and can kind of hold her own. Unfortunately, through the conflict here, one of these majestic kind of architectural trees is knocked down and literally falls on Dragon and Jennifer as they're carting Debbie away. Another one-page sequence back on Earth with Rock explaining to Jennifer's daughter's babysitter, so that's Jennifer's daughter and that's her babysitter, that, you know, we're still looking, but the chances are seeming slim to find your mother, and maybe asking the babysitter to break the news to her. But he refers not to reveal too much right away to the young girl, obviously not to completely destroy her. So as Dragon is digging through the debris here, obviously finds Debbie dead, right, for a second time. And as he turns around to look for Jennifer, the winner of the god conflict is revealed. Thor has beaten Hercules, and as he says here, Thor is triumphant, and to him go the spoils of war. So claiming Jennifer as his own here, and we know what his intentions are, right? So we're going to leave it at that and find out next issue what happens in that love triangle, if you can call it that. These are kind of fun to see because I know these were illustrated a few years prior to this comic, and you can already see, you know, that the visual shorthand that Larsen is using has changed a bit, and he's simplified things even from this period here. Not that the art looks bad here or in the book, but he's definitely veered towards more simplification in the artwork, which I assume works well as well when you're on a tight deadline. Larsen, at least at this time, I think is still putting out comics regularly and monthly, or pretty much. His schedule has changed, I think, in the last few years now. The comic is not quite monthly, right? I think he just puts them out as soon as he's done, right? Ooh, that's an interesting image. Splinter versus Shredder, enough said. So I don't remember Splinter looking like this. I don't know exactly what's going on. And I don't know who the artist for this is. I really would like to know. Is it maybe Frank Fosco being inked by Larsen on this one? I'm not quite sure, but I do feel like this is probably Larsen inks. Great image, though. Just a great silhouette with some highlights. Almost like a precursor to Frank Miller's kind of current style, but maybe a little bit more controlled, or better, if I can offend anyone out there who's a Frank Miller fan. Not that I completely hate his new stuff. There's something to it, and I do enjoy. Some of it's hit or miss, though. All right, guys, there you go. That is my review of the Savage Dragon, issue number 45. If you're still listening, still watching, and still subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the loyalty and support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe below. It really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books, just like we are. We've just hit the 500 subs mark. Thank you so much, everybody out there, for subscribing to the channel. The next milestone is 1,000, so please tell your friends to check the channel out if they're into comic books, and if they like what they see, to like and subscribe as well. Thank you so much, guys. Have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Like!